peel off layers of the onion tonight.
Yeah.
I can remember going to watch you in a play in Huntington Beach. I don't know, it's probably 1980, 88.
Now I just give money to the theaters.
Hey, Ray.
Morning.
Good morning.
Rick,
That's
how are
Ray.
you?
You could tell that was Ray just by the good morning, right?
Glenn Mahler, it is good. And Don Barkmeyer. It's good to see both of you.
It's good to actually be able to be seen.
Well, I'll say it a couple times throughout the night, but just for everybody as you're logging in, remember to make things as easy as possible for Kim. You could actually do what Joseph did, and you could actually put your name and your bar number in your caption if you can figure out how to do that. But otherwise, if you would please put in the chat your name and your bar number, and that way Kim can make sure you guys get MCLE credits.
Let me ask Kim if she's got my bar number, or I can just give it to her.
It's 2, the number 2.
No, it's 1.
I have your Judge. You're good.
Okay.
I have your
thanks, Kim.
email.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you again.
You too.
Good to see you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Come on out to Riverside.
Well, do I have to?
I need someone out there that I know.
Although I was just out there in was it 41, I guess, on a case in brandishing a firearm on a road rage type incident, and they gave him a split sentence of 90 days plus 6 months and of house arrest, and he was out in 24 hours on his 90 days.
Wow.
To give you an
Interesting.
update. Yeah,
Interesting.
I didn't realize they were that crowded, but yeah, but we ended up resolving it for a 422 because the 417 was a straight felony, but still on a strike. They kicked him out, like I said, about 24 hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That doesn't happen in Orange County.
Oh, shoot, I forgot to wear my
Scott
tie.
pays attention. Did you see that?
Yeah.
At least one person can follow directions. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
Thought I was just talking to myself. Nobody else, you know.
I got mine in there, Jeff. I'm in
Oh,
there.
okay. I just saw it
Lisa
pop up.
did too.
I didn't
Hey,
know.
Lori, how are you?
I'm doing good, Judge Mahler. I was in your territory. 3 hours to do a misdemeanor plea yesterday.
You must have been in front of Commissioner Kubline.
No, Judge Moyer.
Oh, okay.
Judge Moyer. She was handling 2 courts. She's telling everyone no prelims today. There's no courts. Craziness there. But it's all good.
What do they have you doing, Judge Mueller?
They got me going, came out for 6 days this month. So they had me in their vertical felony court for 2 days. I was in the misdemeanor court yesterday. I was in a vertical felony court today, and tomorrow I'm in their domestic violence court. And
Yeah, that'll be where I was, 33 and 34.
yeah, 33 tomorrow.
Just bouncing you all
2
over,
days,
huh?
I could have seen you.
Yeah.
Darn. I didn't know you were in 21 or 22. I would have come by
I
and
was in
said
I was in
hi.
21.
Yeah.
They have some nice, the chambers have really nice views. I don't know if you've been back there. No offense to Judge Larsh, the Riverside Court has some great views looking downtown if you're on the right side of the building.
No offense taken.
Yeah.
Well, it's about 5 after. I'm gonna still give a few minutes because we have a lot of people still joining. So let's try to get as many people involved as we can before we get started.
Did you see the fundraiser deal that they have up there for Jeremy Goldman's family? They have a program where if you would like, you could go on there and sign up for a meal for the family to send the family something. It looks like they're covered through like past Christmas already.
Wow. I don't even know, did Judge Mahler hear the
I
tragic
did.
news?
I got
Yeah.
a number of phone calls from various people. So yeah, I heard that he passed away. That was tragic.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
I had just seen him 2 weeks ago.
Well, he was just at a funeral the day before. So it's pretty crazy.
Every day we have is a blessing.
Yeah. That's what I keep telling my mom. She's like, any day now. And I go, Mom, you don't have the COVID. You're good to go. You got this beautiful house. Enjoy your life. Beautiful sun outside today.
How old is your mom?
She's 91.
Ah,
nice.
wow.
You got some
So-
good genes there, Lori.
I'm like, another 10 years is good for me. I'm ready.
No.
I'm like 10 more good years. I'm happy. I'll check out. But yeah, very, very sad news to hear that. And especially when someone has young kids and it's so sudden, it's just so shocking to deal with it.
Mhm.
Jeez.
We still got quite a few people coming in, Judge Lars, so I'm gonna give it another 2 minutes or so and we'll get started.
Great.
Yeah, he doesn't have all night for us.
Yeah, I don't want to make them wait too long. I'll just another couple minutes.
But yet,
We'll still
make-
be allowing people to come in as we go, but
Make sure they all pay their dues.
absolutely.
That's
Well,
right.
actually, Scott, I thought you were picking up the tab for everybody.
No, I paid mine. That's it.
He did.
Oh,
He is a
okay.
member.
Oh, I see. When you paid, you were going to pay for everybody, but nobody
No,
else
no.
asked. I see.
So we still have our COVID $50 special up on. I see a lot of you guys in here that aren't members. I'm not going to tell Kim, but if you
How
haven't
much
paid your
longer is-
$50 dues, pay
Yeah.
them.
For
How
the
much longer is
webinars,
that
I
special?
think I
good?
owe.
yeah, we extended the special through the first of the year. So it's $50 to join, and that'll put you through the first of the year. And right now, the board has been generous to everybody and is still allowing even non-members to get MCLE credit. Our way of just trying to help everybody through COVID. But I don't know how lenient our board will become 2021. We have a new
Yeah,
day.
we're
We're gonna have all this
sticklers.
stuff. Yeah.
I remember
Tougher.
now. Wait, when does it go through? Because I joined this year, but when does it go through?
So our membership runs from July 1st to June 31st. So
Mm.
July 1st was our renewal. And if you renew in the last 2 months, so if you come in May, June, we'll still give you the full year. So if you signed up in May or June, you're still good. But if you are, January or the previous December, you got to renew. So if you don't know, you could just email me and I'll let you know if you're on the list or not. And I could see when you last paid and if you have any questions about when you did last renew. And it seems, time goes by so fast. Everyone says to me, I swear I just paid.
Definitely.
Especially COVID time. COVID time
Yeah.
is very
Yeah.
crazy. Well, let's go ahead and kind of get started. We'll admit the rest of the people as they arrive. But I just want to say thank you for everybody for joining us. Really excited to hear what Judge Lars has to say for us. Excited and at the same time a little concerned because I know we've got a lot of craziness headed our way. And but I just want to say thank you guys for all joining us and being here. As you know, this is all possible because of the great sponsors we have, and we have a bunch of incredible sponsors. And to that end, I want to thank some of them. We want to thank Steve Goldman of Steve Goldman Bail Bonds. I think he's our newest sponsor.
Goodman.
Goodman. God, excuse me. I have Jeremy Goldman on the mind. And for those of you that don't know, we had a recent tragedy, and one of our very well-liked, well-respected defense lawyers, Jeremy Goldman, passed away tragically on, I think it was Monday. And yeah, it's been on my mind. So I apologize for misspeaking. But Mike Moore with Imminent Appearance Attorneys is one of our sponsors. We have Dr. Stephanie Herring from Insight Psychology and Addiction. We have Jarrett Mahoney, Chris Ballou, Trey Roberts, all from Breathe Easy Insurance Services. Original sponsor. I think they've been with us for 11 years. We have William Walker from True Recovery. We have Janny Nelson and Lindsay Gasser from Hotel California by the Sea. We have Dean Stepper and Suzette Casillas from the MOST program. They've also been with us since the beginning. We have Options by Diversified Monitoring Services with Al Martinez and Jason Guevara. We have Sean Cook from Premier Bail Bonds. We have Joseph Blunt from Bad Boys Bail Bonds. And those are the ones that keep us going. And Winter, I haven't forgot you. We're going to get to you in a minute. And those are our sponsors. And in addition to Nancy Clark, and you're going to hear a little bit more from Winter McDaniel in a second regarding Nancy Clark Recovery and her services. I do want to, for those of you that didn't join us before we started going, I wanted to tell everybody that the board generously extended our COVID special on membership dues through January 1st, $50. So that's a 33% break off of your dues. That runs from what would have been July 1st through June 31st of next year. The board has also generously allowed everybody, even non-members, to still get your MCLE credits. So if you haven't already, Kimberly Waugh, our esteemed secretary, needs to get your names, and she needs to get your bar numbers to make sure that you get your MCLE credits. You might want to throw your email in there in case she doesn't have that. The best way to do that is to, well, Jules and Joseph have both decided to be really proactive, and in their name, they've got their name and their bar number. But if you didn't do that, you might want to just put it in the chat to everybody, just your name, your bar number, and your email address. That way Kim can make sure she gets it down, makes it easier for her. I also want to thank, I think Olga Giller joined us tonight. She's one of our newest board members, along with Lisa Leverson. So we want to thank them for joining us this evening. I wanted to let you know that next month in December, we've decided not to have a meeting. As you know, we're not having our holiday party. Unfortunately, that was because of COVID, and we were hoping things were going to get better, but thankfully we didn't gamble on that because the hotel was we were going to lose, I think, 50 or 75% of our deposit if we canceled this late. And now that Orange County has slipped back into the purple, well, we certainly wouldn't have been able to have it. So we had to decide a couple months ago to not have our holiday party this year. And so we'll hopefully have a great summer soiree in July of next year, 2021. And then hopefully even a bigger and a better holiday party before Fernando takes over for me as president, hopefully. And so, and then January, we're hoping to do new laws and a case law update. As a lot of you know, there's been a few different assembly bills that have been having some significant changes on how things will happen next year, especially regarding probation and possible misdemeanor diversions for a lot of different things. And there's a few others I think that are pending out there but haven't been signed yet. So we're hoping to have somebody come in and speak, or maybe a couple people, on new laws and case law updates. And so what I was going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give Winter McDaniel a couple minutes to introduce herself and tell you all about Nancy Clark Recovery Services. Winter, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everyone. My name is Winter. Most of you guys, I've met most of you guys already, but I am the new assistant director for Nancy Clark and Associates. And Judge Lars, just so you know, Nancy was very excited when she heard that you would be speaking tonight, and she planned on being on this call, but she isn't feeling well, and she wanted me to send her regards. So Nancy Clark and Associates, we are an alternative sentencing organization. We provide a variety of programs to assist attorneys and clients with their cases. We are fully operational during COVID. We've made some accommodations due to the pandemic. And some of the programs that we offer, namely our recovery center, which is a substance abuse residential drug and alcohol treatment facility. We have an outpatient program as well. Some of the other services that we do offer are pre-sentencing and pre-plea evaluation reports. We have our Shoplifters Alternative course, which is a counseling program that identifies the psychological triggers behind shoplifters' actions. We have our anger management program, SCRAM, electronic monitoring, and we mostly deal with the criminal justice population. Nancy's been serving the courts for 45 years now, so most of you are very familiar with her and her programs, and we are happy to assist any of you with any of your cases or your clients' needs. We're always happy to help, and we can tailor our programs to the individual needs of your clients. So should you need any services or would you like to find out additional information, you can email us at info@nancyclark.net. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Winter. And I really do encourage you guys to use Nancy Clark and go through Winter and trying to do everything you can to help your clients and see how you can work things out in a way that's going to assist them and hopefully keep them from becoming recidivists and back into the program. We're also going to be with some of the new assembly bills that I was mentioning earlier. Misdemeanor diversion is available for lots of different cases at the judge's discretion starting in 2021. And so as I read the new statute in the assembly bill, it looks like the judges can kind of model the diversions to the incident and to the defendant. And so Nancy Clark and some of our other providers would certainly be able to help out in trying to come up with what could be a good diversion that hopefully you can get a judge to maybe accept in your cases in the future. But with that being said, I wanted to let you know I've known the Honorable now, Eric, or what I knew to begin with as Rick Larsch, since his days as a private attorney. Then it was a commissioner, then a judge, now assistant presiding judge, and soon to be presiding judge in 2021. Rick's always been well-respected, knowledgeable, and just an all-around good guy. As a commissioner, he was one of the first in Orange County to start to get prelims and trials. Before that, basically, commissioners were typically just relegated to doing traffic courts and small claims. And he kind of opened the door, I think, for a few more commissioners to start to do some of those more coveted jobs. And that was just because the prosecutors and the defense attorneys had so much respect for him that he was able to be able to do those things and be stipulated to. He was then appointed judge, moved from felony calendars to felony courtrooms to felony trials, and then for some reason decided he wanted to be assistant presiding judge. And now he's going to tackle on presiding judge 2021. Judge Larsch, I think we're very fortunate to have him during this time because based on his different things he's done through the courts, he understands the courts from a variety of perspectives. I think that's going to help him to be an extraordinarily effective presiding judge next year. Unfortunately, though, he gets to start off his presiding judge legacy in the midst of COVID with a large budget shortfall and down a full courthouse in the county. So I don't envy you in your task, but I know if anybody can guide us through this, I'm confident that Judge Larsch can. And so with that introduction, Judge Larsch, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. It's really good to see all of you. North Court is kind of my hometown, and it's good to see. I saw Jackie come on, and when you started the North Court Bar Association, our first president, and just all of you that I've practiced with. Scott, I mentioned I'd watched him when he was a DA. Now, I got to tell something, Scott, you don't know this. I'm going to cop out to all of you and confess. This is true. I came in one day when I was a private attorney and Scott was in Department 3 At that time, Department 3, where Robbins had been for so long, and then lately was Steiner, and then B. Gordon. But in Department 3, it was misdemeanors at that time. And so Scott was the misdemeanor calendar deputy for the DA. And so we were working on a case. I came in and Scott isn't back for lunch. And I'm going, well, where's Scott? It's 1:40. Yeah, I need to get this case done. I had someplace else to go. So I picked up the phone at council table and I called the DA's office. And I said, is Scott Well there? No, he's not back from lunch. May I say who's calling? And I said, Mike Capizzi, please have him call me. So Scott gets in and they, hey, Mike Capizzi was calling you. Scott calls Mike and says, Mike, Scott Well, to which Mike wasn't there, left a message. So he raced down to Department 3. And when he sits down, the phone rings. It's Mike Capizzi.
Oh, God.
Scott
I
goes,
remember this.
I was returning your call. And Mike goes, you called me. So it was one of those practical jokes. Sorry, Scott. I thought it was real funny at the time. I don't know that anyone caught on. And you got back, we negotiated the case, it was all fair.
Does that have anything to do with him not being a DA anymore?
Not at all, not at all. But it was, when I look back, people say, are you going to stay in California when you retire? And a lot of it depends, on our kids, where they end up. I have 3 kids. And where they will be, I probably would be close by. I imagine they'll be close by. But one of the things that causes me to pause on moving any place is the relationships I have with people and the relationships I have with you. It adds spice to my life. It adds meaning to my life, and I enjoy it. My doctor, my dermatologist, is a good fella, and I go in every couple months and have him take something. And he'll keep me updated on what's happening in criminal law because Jeremy Goldman and he were good buddies. And so I thought about that when I heard a couple days ago, and I just was heartbroken because in our community, the Orange County is one of the largest courts. I think we're the 6th largest court in the nation. We are a large court in a small geographical area. And what that causes is relationships with each other. We know each other. We know who you are, what you're about, what your kids did. If your kids get in trouble, we've seen it, and maybe even helped you out at some point. But I treasure that. And so to be with you here at North Court is just a pleasure. It's where I started. I started as a city attorney. I'd actually taken a job as a defense counsel with a firm called Morgan, Winslow and McNichols. And they had a London office, and they said I could have a place in their London office. I had one last interview, and it was civil law. And I had an interview at the Anaheim City Attorney's Office. And so I went. I got up and talked to Mark Logan and George Berenson, if you remember Mark and George. Mark worked on the Disneyland monorail, and then he got a job as a city attorney. And then he was city attorney for 40 years. And he looked when he retired as he did when he was working on the monorail. He didn't age a day. And so I started the city attorney. I did an interview. I told them I'd wash their cars if they would hire me. I didn't know it was a prosecution job. And so they hired me. And the first couple of years I worked there as a city attorney. I was offered a job at a civil firm that had split up, and one of the partners came and said, would you go work with me? And I talked to Rick Curran. I liked him. I trusted Rick for whatever reason. And I said, Rick, what do you think? I've got this offer. And I told him about some of the partners. And Rick said, well, it sounds like a good deal. They had some of the insurance companies. And he said, but if you want to go open your own office, I'll share the contract with you on indigent defense. And so I remember sitting up wondering, do I do that? Do I not do that? And what job do I take? Do I stay where I'm at? And I went and opened my own office and then shared the contract with Kern and Watson, and did that for 8 years. Then Dick Bain came and said, would you apply for commissioner? And I was a little worried about it, but we had gone through the bankruptcy in 97. And I remember we had a contract and I got a call, and the next thing we knew, the contract was gone. They divided the public defender's office into 3 different offices at that point. The public defender's office, the alternate defender's office, and the tertiary office. And so our contract was overnight just gone. And it was a real lucrative contract. In fact, I didn't take many retained cases. I just didn't need to. I thought it was important just to be there at North Court, and I'd be there, try to get in first so I could negotiate cases. And if I'd be trailing for trial, because you know how that goes, you've got to answer ready before someone will give you a serious offer. And a lot of times, most of the cases would settle. Sometimes you went to trial and you just needed to do that. I applied for the commissioner spot. I received it. I did traffic in North Court to start. And then Wendy Lindley and Dave McCacken came to me and asked if I would consider starting a drug court in North Court. So I wrote a grant, and I talked to the judges, and I remember I said, look, can I write a grant and do this? And they were real concerned, but they didn't think I'd get the grant. It was $355,000. And I had some great staff helping me. We received the grant. I remember going to the judges meeting thereafter, and everyone started to hem and haw a little bit. Drug court, did we agree to this? I don't know, Rick. What are you talking about, this drug court stuff? And I said, you guys, we have asked our date to the dance. The dance is tomorrow night. She has her dress. We bought the flowers. You can't say no now. And so I worked out a deal where I worked every other Friday on drug courts, and I did that. Dave Thompson came to me and said, would you consider coming down and doing the Prop 36 court in 2000 when Prop 36 came into effect? That was the first Prop 36. And in that case, or in those cases, it was for drug possession. And all of the cases in the county came to one court. So I did that for a couple years. I ran for judge. I thought I was running against Mike Capizzi, and I had nothing against Mike. It wasn't Mike. It was just that people were upset with Mike politically. And Mike then jumped away from me at the last minute, and John went against John Conley. And so John Conley thought about it, and he and I had lunch, and he goes, Rick, I'm going to race against you. You know, you weren't the DA, you're a commissioner. And so John beat me in the election, and rightly so. He's such a fine man. And so I was gracious in losing. That's just the way it goes. And then the governor appointed me 2005, Governor Schwarzenegger. People ask me, how do you get appointed as a judge? What was the trick? I don't have a good answer. You want to have a good reputation and all. The way I got appointed as a judge was I started drug court. In my drug court was a volunteer in probation, a gal named Kim Modrick. She still works as volunteer in probation. I had no idea that Kim Modrick was best friends with Dick Ackerman, the senator. And every Friday night they had dinner. Kim never mentioned it to me or said anything. And every Friday night she would push Dick on the shoulder. Hey, what about Rick? What about Rick? So when a Republican, as Republican, because I was born in Orange County, when a Republican got appointed, I got an appointment in 2005. Kim Dunning was the presiding judge. She came to me and asked if I would do the domestic violence court. And there was a domestic violence court and harbor court. And so, well, she didn't ask me, she told me. She said, you will be doing this domestic violence court. And I said, okay. And they sent me to West Court to try to get it started for countywide. So the first thing I did is called Leonard Gumlia and Lewis Clapp. They were the 2 public defenders assigned to the Harbor Court, West Court. And I took them down to Back Bay. There's a little restaurant by the launch ramp there. And I said, why are you guys putting people in this DV court? And Leonard and Lewis both said, well, we're not. We were doing it because we liked the judge, but you know, the truth is it doesn't help our clients much. we're not going to do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Judge Stock had just received $2.5 million from the Board of Supervisors to start these courts that nobody was going to send anybody to. So I did what I could for a couple of years with that. And I went to Judge Boris and said, look, there's no incentive for people to go to these domestic violence courts. They're misdemeanors. You plead guilty, you're going to get usually, if jail time, 10 days to maybe 30 to 45 days. There's no incentive to go into an 18-month program. And interesting, Leonard was assigned to, when I went over to Central Court, he was assigned to my court. And I love Lewis. He's just one of our finest judges and doing a very good job. After that, just did different criminal calendars. And then the Decry case started. He was in family law 2 days before the shooting. And then he came into my court. And I was the arraignment court at that point. And I had 3 friends going through just rotten divorces. And I loved both of the couple, or all 3 of the couples, but both partners. I just loved them dearly. And I didn't understand family law. And I went to Boris and he said, look, you've done your time as supervising. Then he goes, how about, I got a place for you on felony panel. And I said, well, if you don't send me, who will you send? And he said, well, Bromberg would be the next in line. And Bromberg got appointed at the same time as I, and we got along good. We were over in West Court together and then came back to Central Court. And I knew Brom was thinking of retirement. So I said, give it to Brom and let me go to family law. I think I was the first judge that volunteered for family law that had never been to family law before. And I'd never done family law. But I didn't understand what we missed in the Decry case, if anything. And I didn't understand why the people I loved were playing games with each other so much. And so I did 7 years in family law and I loved it. Other than it's hard when you have 20 cases with 5 issues every day. I think that was a tough thing on family law. Then a couple of people said, would you run for APJ? I gave it a go. And the last 2 years, I've been learning how to run a court. And I'll be PJ starting in January. When Jeff said I could be successful and you're happy, probably the reason I could be successful is as a PJ is I know I don't know everything. I'm around talented, bright people. And if I don't know the answer, I can ask. And people will jump in and help. And Glenn Mahler is a great example. I went down, I've been to every court in the county. And I remember meeting Glenn when I was assigned down to, I think, South Court or the Annex. And so Glenn was showing me around and just, it was such a delightful time. Nothing but help and encouragement. So Glenn, I really appreciated that. Won't forget that. So anyway, what does a PJ do? What does a presiding judge do? We're not the boss of other judges. I can't tell other judges what to do. There was a judge that was trying to, he was having court starting at 8 o'clock and ending at 5:30. And it was causing worse workplace problems. And so the presiding judge at that time moved that judge. And so we were all at lunch because we love the judge. And he leans over and goes, Rick, can a presiding judge tell you what to do? I said, no, never. You're an independent judicial officer. But a presiding judge can move you to a traffic calendar or someplace else. And that made sense. I assigned judges to different assignments. And you try to put judges where they'll be happy, where they'll really do a good job for the court, and where there's a need. It's sometimes hard. I had to go to, we have some big changes in family law coming up. We have some retirements. I had to go to 5 different judges, and they weren't asking me to go to family law and said, you're going to family law. As kind of like Fitzgerald. He sentenced someone to 25 to life, and the guy said, Judge, I can't do that. And Fitzgerald, in his way said, well, take it one day at a time. So I talked to our judges. I said, this is a new assignment, really interesting. Take it one day at a time. I assigned committees, people to different committees. And then I'm responsible for the budget. And Jeff had mentioned that the budget was a concern this year. We had $54.5 billion shortage in our tax revenues. That was significant. The governor then came to all the governmental agencies and across the board cut 10%. We're funded, we have a $204 million budget, and we're funded at 85 to 86% of our need. So if we have $204 million, we're funded usually about 86% of that. And we have to find other ways to make it through doing grants or doing other issues. We dropped down to 74% at the budget cut, and we were told next year would be a 15% cut. We're not sure yet, but we're feeling pretty good. We're going to break even this year. We had to balance our budget three ways. One is that we had 8 furlough days for our employees. $171 million of our $204 million budget is employee salaries. We've cut every place and every way we can, other than on plexiglass this year. We've bought a lot of plexiglass. But we have cut, and at some point you can't get past having to deal with the employee issue. The second is that we had about a $7 million tech fund budget that we'd been working through, saving up for different projects. We took 6.8 million of the tech fund to make up the shortfall. And then our last was 8.5% vacancy rate at the court. So when someone retires in March, we find out what the new COLA rate is for the next year for the county. And last year it was 3%. I think the year before was 3%. So the cost of living will get that raise every year. And that's a good raise. And so we have a lot of people take the retirement if they can. As a result, we lose employees and we're not replacing them. We have a 6-month moratorium on replacing employees. And that's allowed us this year to balance the budget. Ventura actually closed their court for 24 days. Riverside, I think, is 18 days of actual court closure. We decided not to close the court to furlough, but with the COVID, it's been really difficult for coverage. And what I mean by that is, out of our 1,400 employees, we have about 341 that are working away from court because we're able to allow them to do their job, but they have childcare needs, kids that are not in school, that are at home. And then we have the family medical leave. So we've worked that out with our employees, but we're short there. So that's been a difficult challenge. Here's what's good news that I can tell you. So far this month, October, the tax revenues have been $4 billion more than they expected. At the rate that it's going, it appears the state will have about $24 billion more in revenue than they expected in taxes, and that should help us. The second thing that I think will help us is we were waiting for some sort of government stimulus. You know, the Republicans said, no, we don't want to give blue states, we don't want to bail the blue states out, and we don't want to go with the Democrat package that they had. And they had until October 15th to affect our budget this next year, and nothing passed. We do expect something to pass, but that's going to go through the regular state channels for revenue. So that's where we stand budget wise. I got to tell you, we have great employees. We have great staff, and they've really made a difference for us. Here's how they've made a difference. We've done 122 criminal jury trials during COVID. We've done 17 civil trials. We've done more trials than almost any other. We've done more so than any other county in the state, but nationwide we've done more. We had our jury services manager interviewed by all the Chicago or all the Illinois courts to find out how they're getting jurors during the COVID crisis time. One of the things we did for our jurors is we took a look, we decided we're going to call jurors in on call-in only. We wouldn't have jurors report. And then we would look at our failure to appear rate pre-COVID, and we would adjust the number of summons so that we would have enough jurors realizing we're going to have a greater failure to appear rate. And we have maybe a 43% failure to appear rate on call-ins, but we're subpoenaing enough people or summoning them to court so we can provide jurors to you when you want to go to trial. And we're finding, a little sarcastic on my part, but jurors are going, stay at home with the kids, jury service. I'll take jury service. You know, I think they're getting a little tired and COVIDed out a bit. But seriously, our jurors in Orange County, I think have always stood up. I used to tell the jury, I don't think I've had a silly jury. You know, you hear that in the news sometimes. And I think maybe some of you have, but for the most part, I've had jurors that even if they don't want to serve, if sworn, they step up and say, it's my duty, I'm going to do the best job I can. And we still have that. So I'm very happy to report that that's gone well. North Court, what is happening with the North Court building? I know that that's a big concern. About a year and a half ago, Judicial Council, if you don't know, the court doesn't own the court buildings. That used to be owned by the county, but then they were transferred to the state. And not all of our buildings were transferred because there was an asbestos issue. And the county didn't want to have to eradicate the asbestos, and the state didn't want to. So there was a kind of a period, about 7 years they had to go through. Judicial Council had $1 million a couple of years ago, and they said, look, we can fix the HVAC in the east wing of North Court, mostly the chambers, judges' chambers. And I don't know if you've been up there on hot days, but chambers can get very hot. The chambers that face Hillcrest Park across Harbor. And that was about $800,000, or they said it was $980,000 to go to the north wing and take out the asbestos. We thought it would be a better idea to rid the building of asbestos because we couldn't fix the roof completely until that was taken care of. When they got into it, they found there were a lot of other issues that they needed to take care of, and that has turned into about a $7 million job. And we're going to the third floor and taking care of that. That should be done at the end of November, 1st of December. They think that will be ready to be moved in January 1st, that area. We don't know that we'll move in there because since then, we had CJ1 we had to take out of the jail. None of our attorneys wanted to go into CJ1. So we moved CJ1, that calendar, that arraignment calendar went up to Department 12 in North Court. Craig Robeson was up there and he noticed the carpet separating in his chambers. We went up and the carpet was separated about 1/4 of an inch, and it went all the way through each and every chamber, all the way down to Department 7. So we had to call a structural engineer. We had to close the court, have him come up and find out why we had a tear in the carpet and what appeared to be a crack. We also found that the tiling in the area, there were 7 tiles misplaced. When we had a company come up, there were actually about 104 tiles that were very hot that had to be replaced. When I say hot, from asbestos. The HVAC had actually pulled apart. Now we don't know why. This was before the earthquake. And so it was, but we noticed some of this after the earthquake. So they're fixing that now. In the jury room, I don't know if you went over to the jury room to take a look at it when it was closed. There was a crack that went through the middle of the floor, and we had to do ground testing on the jury room. And we found that there was sinking in the soil. And the slab of cement that holds the jurors was not reinforced. And so we have to take out all of the floor and put in a new reinforced floor in that area. And if you've been by North Court, you'll see heavy construction equipment, and they've been ripping out part of the building. Because of all of that, and because of asbestos issues still, we thought, have everyone out of the building and let's get it finished and cleaned up. We think we will be back in there. It hasn't been officially announced. If you were asking me to make a guess, I'd say February 1st. And it's a problem for us. If you know Joe Perez, I don't know if Joe has a chambers yet. Stephanie George, Judge George, doesn't have a chambers or a courtroom. We have flying robes all over the county. I think Creighton Laz is calling his calendar, the North Court traffic calendar from Harbor Court. So we're scrambling to try to get this taken care of. We think that when we go in, then we won't have any issues of having to reclose it again and chase everyone off. So that's the rundown in North Court, as best that I can give you at this point. Is it going to open up again? Yes, it is. We need it. It's 18 courtrooms and it needs to be in place. So I think that's, as I give a rundown, that's a pretty good rundown of where we stand. Are we going to do well this next year? I really think so. I'm having a meeting tomorrow with all of the chiefs of operation. And I said, tell me what we can do different. And let me give an example. Our out of custody arraignments. We're rolling out the out of custody misdemeanor and felony arraignments. But Martin Schwartz and I had a meeting and Scott Zidbeck, before Scott retired last week, we had a meeting and I said, why can't we do video arraignments? So people out of custody, their arraignment date's been pushed off. The district attorney will send a letter out and say, it's time to be arraigned. You have an appearance on this date in the West Justice Center. The reason they hadn't gone out yet is we didn't know until about 2 days ago what was happening with the North Justice Center regarding this construction completion dates. So Martin was concerned that his attorneys were too close to each other and the COVID issue. We had a bailiff, a runner that tested positive. And as a result, through tracing, he had to quarantine 4 of his deputies because they were in close contact. None tested positive, but they still have to do the quarantining. So I said, well, can't we do remote arraignments? District attorney sends a letter out and says, you need to appear on November 12th in Department W3 at 9:30. You also have the opportunity, if you choose to appear at 1:30 remotely. This is the link you would remote into for that appearance. If you don't appear remotely or don't have the ability, here's a place you can go, and we have a service center where they could go use a computer. But if you don't, you need to be at the 9:30 arraignment. And then, with those, we think they have to go by request for arrest warrants. We wouldn't issue a warrant at that point in time. So we're thinking about ways out of the box that we can make this work. We did last week a civil jury trial all remotely. As a test case, the judges were all the jurors. So we had 18 judges sit as jurors, and we selected a jury online, and it seemed to work all right. Alameda County, you've seen some of the Daily Journal articles, but they've actually done 3 remote jury trials for civil, and it's worked out pretty well. And no appellate court has told them they couldn't do such. If you do pick a jury now, everyone's wearing face masks. You have jurors. One of the problems with selecting a jury is you can't have a panel of 40 come in. Our biggest courtroom my courtroom is C1. And I think we can get about 42 people in that courtroom. So our big courtrooms, our complex courtrooms, we're reserving for jury selection. Once there's a jury selection, we try to get you into the other courtrooms. But for instance, in the civil courtrooms, there's not enough spacing to have more than 10 jurors in the courtroom, unless we use the outside courtrooms, the bigger courtrooms. So I think I've talked enough. Questions I could answer, anything is fair game, I told Jeff.
Yeah, you've covered a lot, Your Honor. Thank you so much for everything, for all those things. I'll start off questions. You guys can all unmute yourselves if you want to ask questions. It'd be great maybe if you could put in the chat your name, and then I'll try to call on people so we don't talk over each other. But my first question, I think, for you, Rick, is hoping that we're going to get, or Judge Lars, hoping that we're going to get through through this COVID thing, hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months with the vaccine. Are we going to be able to keep some of these things that we've put into place? Like some of the WebEx appearances that we're talking about, some of the misdemeanor and felony action requests, some of the, like, for example, I was in Commissioner Van Camp's courtroom, and it's great because he gave me an offer. I set out a date, but he encourages, if we have notarized haul forms, to do a misdemeanor action request, and he calls in the afternoon so we can do them. Is there any idea to keep those things, some of those things in place, or is this way too premature of a question?
No, it's actually a great question. And we hope to keep all those things in place that are working well. The reason for that, they tell us that Center for State Courts back in Virginia will come out and evaluate courts and how they do their work. In criminal, the number one issue is pretrials. How many times do you set pretrials? 8, 10, 12 times. And depending on the judge, you know that the more times you set the pretrial, the more likely you're going to get a better offer. That's not always the case, but it does seem, I think, to be the way we used to do things. And we still have pretrials. I looked at in family law, I would have a domestic violence case, and we usually would hold off in family law until the criminal case was done. Criminal DV cases would go for a year, and they'd be continued and continued as you're trying to settle or work out some sort of a plan. So if we can do it remotely, we don't have the amount of clerk time. And with the court's budget, it makes a world of difference if we can limit that. The big issue, and this is one of the things we talked about with Martin Schwartz, was with the public defender's office on misdemeanors and light felonies. A lot of times that's when you get time with your client. If you've gone to the jail lately, sometimes it can take you to see 3 clients all of Saturday, and it's almost impossible. So I realize one of the issues is, how do I get the public defenders FaceTime with their client? And how do we do that well and still use it remotely? So I think it's going to stay with us. If there's problems that we can address, let us know. Zoom was a problem for the court because of security. We've met with Zoom through the Judicial Council, and we're getting those things worked out. We're now using Zoom in family law. Our WebEx connectivity was horrible. Zoom, we have much better connectivity. So we're pushing for that now. And Zoom's working on a governmental approval on some of their software that they're piloting with Orange County and Maricopa County.
Oh, very good. Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. I hear I'm going to just go off some of the list. I've got Melissa Padilla's got a question. Melissa?
Oh, hi,
Or did
Your
you want me
Honor.
to ask it?
Okay, I thought you were going to ask it. Hi, I was wondering, will North Court stay at West Court in the interim if it doesn't open until February?
Yes, we don't have any place to put it other than West Court.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. I think Ray Denari has a question.
Ray?
Hi, Judge.
Hey, Ray.
Hi, I enjoyed your lecture. As always, you're such a warm, wonderful person to listen to. I thank you for your time. My question and concern is CJ1, will that go back to North Court starting January 2021?
No, CJ1's going to stay at Central Court at the time being, and I don't know that we'll ever have CJ1 looking like it did in the past. CJ1 right now, they're using it for the appearances for people that are in custody, and I don't have anybody willing to go back to the CJ1 courtroom. I don't know if you've ever been over there. But
yes, I have. I never wear the same suit that I go there. I burn them after I get home.
No, I don't think we'll go back. But here's one of the problems with doing it remotely with the jail is connectivity within the jail. They have 26 deputies that run iPads around to the different jail cells for the appearances because of the quarantine. So that's a problem. They're looking to save money. I suggested the Boston technology dog with a flat screen on the dog. They said they could never sell it to the robot to the union that was.
I have a follow-up question. Would Judge Robertson stay at the CJ1?
No,
House?
no, he won't. Judge Robeson moved to Texas.
Oh,
And so he offered to do CJ1 if we could allow him to do it from Texas. There's some argument that you need to be in state to call a case. Some people, if you have a stipulation, you can be out of state. We have a judge that has a home out of state, and for civil law motion, everyone stipulates. That works out. So at this point, we legally don't believe we could have that. If we could, we would. Judge Robeson had done all of his hours and passed what they're allowed for sitting judge, and the court received a dispensation from the Judicial Council to allow him to sit. And Judicial Council seems unwilling at this point to continue that. So we'll have someone new going in to that. The CJ1 will be part of the Central Limited panel responsibilities. And I think there's going to be Ed Hall, Joe Dane, and Jennifer Contini may be the three, but I'm not positive. We haven't made the assignments permanent yet.
I think
Thank
our
you,
next
Honor.
question's from Lori Walton. Lori,
Hey, Lori.
Whoops. Hi, Your
you're on
Honor.
mute, Lori. There you
So
go.
my question is, today I was at an arraignment in Central, and after the arraignment, they said, do you want a pretrial in the settlement conference court or the regular court? So what's the difference? What's this new thing about?
I'm not positive. I'll have to look into it. The settlement conference court right now is Judge Poole. He's sitting on assignment, and Judge Poole is, if you want a good deal, you need to get into that settlement court, Judge Poole. You all know that. There's been some really good deals. Judge Steiner is going to be going into a felony court. But if you can get a good deal, Steiner's court, I understand, Poole's court are the courts that we're trying to move cases. As we know, our goal has been to provide trial courts. If you have trial courts, you settle cases. If you don't have trial courts, you won't settle cases because you're going to say they can't get me out to trial. So we know that challenge, and we're doing everything to do it. But in that, a good settlement program will help us in being able to accomplish that. So that's what that is. Will that change? I think it will come January because we're making permanent assignments and putting different people in there that could do the settlements of those kind of cases. I think Scott Van Camp is that court in West Court at this point. I think Greg Jones is that court in Harbor Court at this point. And the way I'm going to have all the supervising judges, the way I kind of set that up is it's your court. You run it, you know the needs, run it as you see fit, and assign as you see fit.
Very good. Your Honor, I also heard you mentioned Judge Steiner. I heard is Judge Mansourian also dividing that odd and even cases post prelim?
Mansourian also is doing that. When he first came over from North Court after supervising North Court, and we lost Fitzgerald, Mansourian took that position.
Very good. I think that Jackie Goodman has a question for you.
Hey, Jackie, how you doing?
Hi, Your Honor. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for this, and I echo Mr. Denari's sentiments. It's always so good to hear from you. And
thanks. Hey, I gotta tell you, it's good to see your articles in the Daily Journal.
thank you.
So that's very nice to see.
Thank you. That's high praise because they're pretty sarcastic. Thank you.
I love sarcasm, man.
So listen, Your Honor. Thank you. Your Honor, and by the way, I'm so glad that someone has read mine. So my question for you is, given I'm always struck when I hear this statistic, and I have heard it before, that Orange County has done more jury trials than all of the other counties in California combined. And I think the statistics are that Orange County has done some of the most jury trials in the nation per capita. So I'm curious about whether or not there's, I'm not trying to be careful, I'm just trying to figure out how to say this. Is there a generalized like directive where courts are telling the trial courts to say, please try to push these to trial or try to get these trials done so that we can clear our calendar? Or is it really left up to the individual court? Because as I travel in different areas and do trials, I'm finding that I'm met with really disparate ideas from the bench in different counties, and even within Orange County, that some courts are saying, if the parties are stipulating and someone's out of custody, kick it out as far as you can. And then other times you might find a court that's saying, no, I want you ready for trial on this particular day. And I'm just wondering if it's really left up to the individual judges, or if there's some kind of directive from the top for Orange County.
It's really, left to the individual courts. I won't say judges. It's kind of a court attitude. It's been interesting going through this COVID crisis because every court gets to call their own shots. The Chief Justice has said, I'm leaving it up to you presiding judges to decide. And we've had the attitude in Orange County that if you take the courts away from society, you take that determination of justice under the law. And you see that problem. There was a case that just came down, the federal case on the landlord-tenant issue. And the federal judge said, this is a legislative issue. It shouldn't be left up to the courts. Chief Justice has said, you decide how best you can do it based upon your resources. We've been able to pull together the resources. Now, we leave it up to Judge Pham, and she's kind of shepherding all the felony jury trials. And we've asked her to try to have judges ready to go. We've had a lot of judges statewide. There are some courts that haven't had judges come in. We've told our judges they've got to come in and be ready to work, and let's try to work this out together. And I think it's philosophy that we have here. But I think that philosophy, when I say that, I'm not self-righteous or better than thou. San Diego court has that new court building downtown. I was talking to Lorna, the presiding judge, and she was wondering how she was going to get jurors up and down in elevators. And that's one of the problems we have at Orange County. We have 4 elevators. I rode those elevators with 3 different clerks timing each other and seeing what things we would run into, because that's a problem for our COVID plan. I think the number one concern of the presiding judges, we have a listserv and we meet once a month as presiding judges, has been the safety and the protection of the public. And based upon the building situation that you have, you do it different ways. Now, we haven't beat every other county, like Riverside. I hear they've, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking to the PJ there. They've got 75 trials that they had taken care of. LA was just going to start their first trial. You saw Sam Oda up in LA doing that first trial. So different courts are doing it different ways. Alpine, I don't think they ever shut down. I just think they kind of, there's 2 judges and they still kept their vacations and they did cases because they have to do family and traffic and, murder cases all by that one judge. So
I have a follow-up if I could. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Given that the numbers seem to be on the rise, unfortunately still in Orange County, is there any speculation about whether the court might go back to further restrictions if the numbers reach a certain place, or does it seem like the court is likely to continue on in the way that it is now, regardless of how the numbers pan out?
It's a really good question. In fact, the sheriffs asked that yesterday, saying, are we going to close? And we're not. we had at the highest point of the COVID crisis, we were doing exactly what we're doing today. So we're going to do the same thing. One of the things that I'm real proud of, and I think Judge Nakamura, I just praise him for this. We have not had in our tracing one case where a COVID positive person has transferred it to another person that we could show at our court. Now, is that guaranteed? No, because I don't know where you can tell it comes from. But in tracing the people that have close contact, we've not had a positive from anybody that we've identified. And we've had probably 44 to 55 positive tests where people call in. Ted Howard, I don't know if you know Judge Howard, he was picking a trial and one of the jurors called him and said, I just found out my wife is positive. And so we had the juror call in, not come back from lunch. The attorney stipulated, we questioned him on the phone, and the attorney stipulated that he could go. Then we told the jurors exactly what happened. And we asked the jurors, none were within 6 feet for a continuous 15 minutes. Now, I know that's changing a bit, and there's a new section that's coming in that says if you have 4 positives, you are a mass spreader, and that may cause you to close down. Under that law, we've not heard anything yet, but we see an avenue that the county could come in and try to close us down. Our argument so far has been, we're the courts, you're the county, you don't have jurisdiction over us. But our desire is to keep us safe. And if you see anything we're doing that you don't think is safe, let us know. Call me personally and say, Rick, this is crazy. Good question.
Thank you again very much.
Thanks, Jackie. Those are some great questions. Before I go to the next question, if you could, just in the chat, put your name. You don't even have to put the question in there. Just put your name and I'll call on you. The next person, Carrie Fulgeson, you have a question?
Hi. Hi, Judge Lynch. Good to see you. We missed you in family law.
How is that Marine son of yours doing?
Oh, well, he's out and the corpsman's still in Japan and the reservist is going to Guantanamo. So they're all still serving. One's out, but the other 2 are serving.
In my thoughts and prayers.
Thank you very much. I had a very specific question. I know most of us are defense attorneys now, used to be, but I'm supposedly just family law now. But as far as the reorganization of the courthouses and sort of the real estate, the moving around and the judicial reassignments, is that going to be in January or February, or is it going to wait until COVID settles down a little bit? When would we be looking for all those changes?
All of the above. And that's tough. On family law, there's going to be, I think, possibly 3 retirements, 2 or 3 moves. And we're trying to spread it out. I had a meeting with Judge Hurwitz and Judge Palafox 2 days ago. And I saw Lon again this morning. And his desire is to spread it out over 6 months. I think that we can work that out. I need to talk to 1 or 2 of the judges and talk to them about that. I'm trying in every move I make with the judges, I'm trying to talk to them personally, rather than just have them get an email saying you're going here or there. Seems to work a little better.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thanks, Your Honor. I think the next question we have is from a self-proclaimed old guy, Scott Well.
Well, yeah. Sorry, but some of us are getting to that point, where we're more concerned. I personally have been pretty uncomfortable about coming to courts, and every time I'm in a situation where I go into a room and there's people there, especially where some of them aren't following all the protocols, it sort of scares me. I get a little claustrophobic, and there's fear, and I really respect other people that have that same fear. I just wanted to, I know that you and we've tread the halls of the courts 30 years ago, as you mentioned, and we've always been trying to find a way to do it more efficiently. And I just wanted to share an experience that just happened today, because I think that a lot of the criminal defense attorneys from the private bar are just trying to do their jobs and get through the day. So today was a day where I had a very insignificant misdemeanor case set in Westcourt. And I called the clerk at 9 o'clock. My client was there at the door at 9 o'clock. He was sort of sent away because I wasn't there with him. When he called me, I said, I'm taking care of this, through WebEx. the clerk said, well, we're not going to do this till about 10:30, so stand by, I'll call you. So I stood by, and at about noon, I hadn't received a call, and I checked in and said, I'm still standing by. She goes, yeah, we're kind of late. We'll call you at 1:30. And then at 2:30, I finally get a call, and then I was on the waiting list basically for quite a long time while many pleas were taken. So finally at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after I'd been waiting for 6 hours, the case got called, and my short unopposed continuance took less than 1 minute of court time. This is something we've dealt with a long time, but if I was one of those civil attorneys, I would have had to charge the client about $4,000 for that day for my 1 minute of work. And it just seems to me like, again, this is something that we've heard over and over again, but maybe the judges would be aware of, your time, in that if you're going to have the call-ins happen at a certain time, great. We'll sit there and we'll wait for a half hour or even an hour like we do. But to waste a whole day being on call where you can't do anything else is really hard for us. It's hard to make a living at this. So it's just something, and little things like, maybe the judges all should be aware that, gosh, if someone's there and they've got an unopposed continuance, let's do those before we stack up the pleas, or, some kind of priority system. But again, we've been talking about this for 30 years and there doesn't seem to be a change, and you can't really tell people how to do it. I just wanted to share that. I know Virginia was in the same courtroom as I was, and I saw your face there, Virginia, today. And I don't know how long you waited, but for me, I don't do this a lot anymore because I'm kind of semi-retired. But it just seemed like there must be a way to make it a little bit more efficient for us during this real difficult time for everybody.
Scott, that's a great question. And I agree with you. I'm sorry you had to wait. I don't think you should. In fact, they asked me to take a look at San Bernardino's pretrial process and think about implementing how San Bernardino goes about it. And I hadn't been out to San Bernardino, Rancho Cucamonga, or downtown in years. But the Michael Sachs and Glenn, I can't remember Glenn's last name, the assistant presiding that's going in, said they'll take me out, we'll take a look at it, because they don't actually have appearances. You just hand in a paper, and that seems to make a lot of sense as opposed to having to call it. And even on a WebEx, I don't know why they had to have you there and the client there if you were doing it WebEx.
Yeah.
So I'll look into it. I don't think we should have you appear if you don't need to appear. I wish I could remember the attorney's name in Long Beach, a city attorney. I had a case, hazardous waste dumping at one of those two-bit dealerships. And John and I want to say Mathis, but that's not correct, would call me and say, hey, Rick, we still got that case. You coming out to Long Beach today? Are we going to do anything? He goes, don't worry about it. Don't come out. If you need a little more time, I'll just tell them we're going to put it over. I thought, oh my gosh, it was fantastic. And so I'm very much for that. I'll look into it. I'll check it out. One of the things, Scott, I'll tell you is that we're not doing things great because we're just out of control with one place at the moment. But that's something that's just not acceptable. So I'll look into it tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Great question, Scott. I mean, great. Yeah, thanks for sharing your experience. I don't see anybody else in the waiting queue, but if you can, just state your name if you have a question.
Yeah, Hugh Whittemore, I have a comment. I think it's tremendous that you can go on the court website and live stream and then call the judge on the phone. And I told, I guess, the newest judge in West Court, I don't have his name right on the top of my, yeah. I said, if you turn to the right a little, you can face me as you're speaking to me. So it's really exciting. Like right now that we're doing this Zoom, it's great to see everybody. And I think the courts have been phenomenal in what you're doing and how everything is set up. It's really, I think it's been going really smooth.
Thanks. We've got a lot of work to do. And truthfully, I think all of you, like Scott's input that he had to wait to, that's just not acceptable. I don't think it should be. My attitude when I called calendars is get the attorneys out that are ready to go. You shouldn't wait around. You need to make a living. So I need to get you on your way, and I'll push that hard. But if you see things like that cause concern, let me jump in and address it and see what we can get taken care of. And you're welcome.
Thanks, Rick.
You're
Say
always,
Next
to
question, I
Scott's-
think Jackie's got a follow up. Go ahead, Jackie.
for that, Jackie, you're always welcome to come to my office and come in and say, Lars, this is out of control, and I'll deal with it. I mean, don't feel, my relationship with all of you, I think, is strong enough that I don't mind, other than Jim Apple. He owes me $5, I think.
He owes me $5 too.
Jackie?
I was just gonna say, just further to Scott's statement today, that I've had sometimes the opposite experience. And I think, you know, some of the silver linings of COVID are that we find that we're capable of doing things in ways that we never imagined. And I have found that prosecutors and I have engaged in pretrial conferences in a much more efficient way at times. And I've been, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say who it is, but I've been contacted, actually the same person for the last few days in a row. We talk about something, we'll decide on a date, and then that person will say to me, don't worry about it, just forget about that pretrial, I'll make sure we get that date. And I don't know how that happens, but in a particular court, I think courts are not requiring folks to make appearances. So I think there are places within Orange County that are actually operating in a far more efficient way. And I would laud them for that. And maybe some communication between the courts is all that's necessary. Because by the way, I always have loved going to San Bernardino for their pre-trials. It's very easy. But yeah, I mean, I would share, I don't mean to be nothing but critical in my own comments. I also have been in places where there's just been too many people and there's no way you can keep 6 feet distance and you're in there with no windows and it's just not, it's not safe.
We had that problem in West Court today. I got contacted by Judge Pham and they said, you know, we need to get, I think it was W4. We need to move it over to W9. Jensen's courtroom is one of the bigger courtrooms and there were just too many people in W4. That may have contributed, Scott, to the issue because we had some complaints about that. We had some complaints. If you see protocol not being followed, let me know. We had some of the senior sheriffs called out by one of our staff for not wearing masks and not being social distant. We'll call anybody out. We want it to work right. One of the hardest things we had is we made our judges wear masks. If they didn't have masks, we said, look, a medical reason, you can wear a shield. Other than that, you've got to wear a mask. And that was really tough. But the truth is, it causes the public to feel that we care about their safety when they come into our courts. So if that's what it does, I'll wear a mask.
Thanks, Your Honor. I see the next question looks to be coming from Virginia Landry. Virginia?
Hey, Virginia.
Hi, I just have a suggestion. We have had the capability to do continuances and the MARs, and I call them a MARF and a FARF.
Marf and Farf.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh when I do that because it's a form, but I'm like, how are we going to get something in front of the court? There has been I think, a tremendous job being done by the court clerks to process those and figure out where they're going and when they're going. That's been very effective. The email capability on getting, you know, tall forms are going in and probation orders are coming back. That's working very well. It would be my opinion, you're going to save a significant amount of staff time if I can send in a form, and it doesn't have to be approved by a district attorney for a continuance, because for the most part, if somebody's at home, they don't have a file, you've sent mitigation to somebody, they aren't necessarily going to be the same person you talk to the next time. Right. And so nobody's really looking at things. And until you get that individual conversation like Jackie was talking about, that call back, it's wasteful. Right. I've been in 3 or 4 times on a case where I didn't want to be in court, but I had mitigation. I emailed it to 2 or 3 different people because it's always somebody different. I can follow up and it's not the same person that's coming up. So if we can suggest that there's more of a streamline maybe with the DA's office, or that when we have things that we know can just get bounced, we shouldn't have to appear, or we shouldn't have to wait on WebEx and a simple form sent into a clerk. I've got these 3 cases. I'm requesting these dates. I've had some clerks say, you have to get that signed off by the DA. I'm like, nobody will call me back.
Right.
And so every court is a little different, and it depends on how busy somebody is for a day. Today in W3 and W4, it was hard. It was just a hard day, but it's not always like that. And if we can streamline it, you're going to be so much more effective. I kicked a bunch of cases to February, and if I ever get calls back, I'm going to take care of them in advance.
Right.
But I don't want to have to keep coming back for nothing.
Right. Well, here's what I would tell you. I'll follow up on this with both Martin Schwartz, Todd Spitzer, and Kate Corrigan's been standing in and trying to get it out to the private bar. The work that the 3 of those have done to work together and be cooperative is just, it's Jackie, why we're able to do what we're doing in Orange County, I think, because we're finding that a lot of the counties, the DA and the PD and the attorneys are at each other's necks, the way things are going. That may happen in our county when we start filing the misdemeanors. And I expect we'll start seeing CERNA motions coming in, and we're going to have to deal with the CERNA issues about late filed cases. That's going to come in. But they've been willing to work with anything we bring to them. Now, if it's not getting down to the line staff, I'll talk and I'll share your thoughts with me today with both the chiefs and Kate, and say, look, it's not getting to the line staff, and to my supervising judges. We're going to lose Terry Flynn Feaster in West, but I'll get to the line judges, the ones that are going to be supervised, saying, look, if this seems to be a problem, how do we clean this up? Because I'm pushing them very, very hard on being efficient, because we don't have the staff to cover this if they're not. So I'll follow up.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. And it's I also wanted to echo what Virginia said, that it can get a little hit and miss. I've been very fortunate with a lot of the MARFs and FARFs. I think I'm going to use your terms from now on, Virginia. I like that. But it is really kind of hit and miss. Some of the DAs are really good about getting back to you and responding to emails, and others, you're just typing to a wall. It's so I find that just to be kind of hit and miss. You know, if you get the right DA, and unfortunately, I think that makes us pile up on some of the DAs that are responsive, and some of the other ones that aren't doing the work are successfully dodging the work. So I do think that maybe a little nudge that way would help, because I am seeing that there's certain people that just don't seem to respond as well. And as far as San Bernardino is concerned, I think all the criminal defense attorneys will tell you that there probably is not a more efficient place to practice. I mean, Orange County is great, don't get me wrong, but San Bernardino really does have their pretrial system down. You can do calendar arraignments in their clerk's office that I would have you look at, or even phone calls and fax arraignments on certain cases. They've got a lot of stuff that, I think is worth looking for, and I'm glad you're going to be going there.
Yeah,
I know we've got some other. Go ahead, Your Honor.
Sorry, can I interject really fast on that? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say San Bernardino has they don't have a backlog on out of custody cases, because they took 2 or 3 days and just lined everybody up outside the court. They had settlement areas, they had all their DAs, all their PDs, all the private attorneys, and they just pulled them all in, and they worked them, and they were caught up in 2 days, which was fantastic.
Kim.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's totally fine. I just wanted to comment on that. I'm a prosecutor with the DA's office. I don't work in North Court anymore. I'm in human trafficking now. But if any of you are having issues getting in touch with the line deputy, whether it be on the misdemeanor side or the felony side, please let me know, and I will get you in touch with the right person. I'll leave my email.
Thanks.
See, Kim's one of the good ones. She's one of the ones that would always get back to you. She never gave me any good offers, but she always got back to me.
Yeah.
Well, I will put the smack down because people should be getting back to you. It's unacceptable. So I will make sure someone gets in contact with you.
I do want to reiterate, though, for the most part, I think your office has been doing a great job. And I agree with Judge Larch that I think everybody's been working together. And I think most of the judges have done a fantastic job. I don't want to keep Judge Larch here too long because he's already given us almost an hour and a half of his time. I don't want him to think that he's going to be on the hook forever. So I'm going to try to close things up here in about 5 minutes. Do we have any other pressing questions?
I do.
It looks like, yes, Mr. Denari's got another question. Go ahead.
Thank you. Your Honor, I appreciate your time and your kindness. I try really hard not to abuse your kindness, but I have this pressing question to ask you. I have about 10 Cerna motion on my desk. I understand the judge that hears them will decide them. So I'm not going to bring that up, but the concern on my cases are that because of this COVID and the late filing, my clients have ended up having completed their program, alcohol program, and having completed the restriction or suspension period. And by the time we get to the court, some of them, even though some judges have accepted the completed program to be satisfactory, they still will order suspension, which causes the client to double suffer, like a double jeopardy sort of thing. And I was curious about your input about this delay, which causes clients to do 2 periods of suspension, even though the program seems to be accepted by judges, but the suspension period still is an issue.
You know,
maybe I could clarify this for you for just a second, Your Honor, because I think what Ray's referring to is that you'll lose the DMV or something will have it. And you may recall that, I know it's been a while ago, and the DMV puts in their suspension. We can then get it back nowadays by just putting in the ignition interlock device. If there's a conviction in a DUI, then the court, it's just done by a conviction though. It's not based on a court order. The conviction then starts another suspension that can increase the length of the IID period. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. And I haven't done criminal law in, 9-10 years. So I haven't looked at that issue, but I'll look into it. Here's what I'm wondering is if the law requires the court to order it, and some of our judges think that you have to order it, could you do an order that says your license is suspended for 120 days? Should the DMV have already suspended the license for this incident alone, this court will find that it's been completed. Something such as that you could take the DMV and say, you may have another trip to the DMV to deal with it. But I think, and I'm not sure, I'll look into it. My guess would be that it may be that it's required to be ordered under the code. So some judges think they have to order it. And you know how it is with DMV. The right hand doesn't sometimes know what the left hand is.
Right. I don't think it's an order thing though, Your Honor. It's something that happens automatically based on a conviction. And maybe I can bring Virginia into this since she is the DUI queen, and maybe she would have some additional insight for us. Virginia?
So when a probation order is generated, and Orange County is so on top of it because it's electronically done right away, that goes directly to the DMV database, and then the DMV sends out a notice of a 6-month suspension based on a first-time DUI conviction. So,
and Virginia, can you get that lifted if they've already done that suspension?
You cannot at this point, but the DMV, because so many people have had a 6-month suspension and now things are happening in court where it comes back, we don't know whether or not DMV is going to lift each one of those suspensions or require the code section. I've had some clients go both ways, but it's based on a conviction when the abstract goes in.
So what if there were a way, I'm trying to think of ways to get around, it's generated automatically. If we could generate it such that it's sent in and we don't have to send it in before 30 days or something such as that to give you an opportunity to go to the DMV to argue that this is the same suspension, would that help at all?
No, but I think I think that's a legislative thing. The problem is that clients don't have a way really around it. It's getting triggered by the DMV database once the abstract goes in. So I don't think the code says it should be longer than the longest of whichever suspension, but it's not getting applied that way. They're two separate times.
And I'm seeing the same thing, Your Honor. And I think, unfortunately, with Ray was asking, can there be a court order? I don't think that a court order would do anything, because it has nothing to do with the judge affirmatively ordering something. It's just based on the conviction. It automatically addresses this. And then the DMV requires 6 months of ignition interlock device in lieu of an additional suspension. Typically, when we didn't have these long breaks, you would get the 4 months from the initial DMV, and that would be considered concurrently. And so that 4 month and 6 month would just be 1 6 month period. But now you're seeing people that have already done this 4 months with ignition interlock device, get the machine taken out of their car. Another 3, 4, 5, 6 months goes by. If they have a conviction, maybe another 3, 4 months of pre-trials, and then they're going to have another 6 months of putting this ignition interlock device. I agree with Virginia that I think it's something that only the legislature can fix, but love you to look into it if you can.
You know, I'll look into it. And Virginia, if you'll get back to me with any ideas that you have, I don't think there should be an injustice served upon your clients because of the COVID crisis. And we choose not to file something to keep people out of the court. And DUIs are the out of custody cases that we haven't been filing. And you know, with the new probation rules, they're not even going to be able to, we're going to lose any power that we have to hold them accountable on probation.
But DUIs are excluded from the new rules.
Is it excluded? Okay.
Yeah, because any code section that has a term of probation within the code will stay that. Domestic violence 3 years, child endangerment 4, DUIs 3. All of the other ones will go back to a 1-year grant.
Well, Virginia, if you're the expert, if you're the DUI queen, then stop by and say, look, here's where I think the court could help. Maybe it's picking the right case, the right judge to set something up for an appeal where they'll get legislative attention. I think that's sometimes effective.
Perfect.
I'm not
Your Honor, unless we have any.
I'm sorry, Jeff. First of all, thank you for your input, Jeff. That was very helpful. And I'm not a DUI queen, only a DUI foot soldier. But I would really appreciate a language by the judicial officer acknowledging that the probationary, the restriction period or suspension period had been served. And then maybe I could take that language and somehow appeal the further suspension or the requirement for IID.
Here's the best I can give you, Ray, is I'm happy to talk to my supervising judges. And I go to all the criminal panel meetings. We have the judges, and I'll talk to each of the panels about the issues you brought to me and your concern in this area. I can't tell a judge to put that order in because as independent judicial officers, when they get a case, it's their call. And you know how that is. You're hoping to get to one judge, you get to another, you go, oh no, because you know they make calls certain ways. We're all unique, but I can't tell them what to do, but I can show the problem to them. If I completely understand it, Virginia, you could help me on that. But I could present it to them and say, look, if this is a problem, is there any harm in making your order finding that to the best of the court's knowledge, there's only one DUI that's been punished. That's been done with the suspension already. And the court would find that the suspension was complete, but for the code requires us electronically to notify. Something such as that. And I'll
thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Judge Larson. Thanks so much for joining us and being here for an extended period. I think I told you I'd let you out of here in an hour, and I hoodwinked you into 90 minutes, I think. So thank you so much for giving us your time. Obviously, we got a lot out of it. We had great attendance tonight. And I just want to say thank you very much. And I appreciate your open door policy. And I know you're going to do a great job for us.
Hey, thanks. And it just warms my heart to be with all of you. This is my hometown, great people. And, you know, my door's always open. Come in. There's something to drink in the refrigerator, so you can grab it. If you have any input for me to do better, to make it a better court, let me know, and I'm happy to do it. And if anyone can get that $5 that Apple owes me.
I don't even think you can get a rise from them on the couch. Okay, thanks again,
I'm the
you guys.
treasurer. I'll do it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Jeff.
Everybody have a good night.
Good to see you,
Good night,
Rick.
Your Honor. Judge Mahler.
Thanks, Jeff.
Everybody. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good one. Talk soon.
Good job, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Jeff. Good night.
Bye, thank you.
Good night, guys. Bye.
Everyone, good night.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, Jim Bob.
The Waltons. We're over everybody's head. Good night, everybody.